All right, welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever stopped and wondered if maybe, just maybe, we're living through the most dangerous and critical time in all of human history? Well, according to philosopher Toby Ord in his book The Precipice, the answer is a big yes. He argues that our generation, right now, is standing at a tipping point, with the entire future of humanity literally hanging in the balance. Let's dive into why he thinks that.
To really get a sense of what's at stake, the book kicks off with this amazing idea from H.G. Wells. The idea here is that everything humanity has ever done, the pyramids, the moon landing, all of it, might just be the dream before the awakening. So you see, this isn't just about, dodging a bullet and surviving. It's about protecting a potential future so grand that it could make our entire world today look like the Stone Age.
And to really wrap your head around that potential, just look at this timeline. Our whole past, all 200,000 years of it, is just that tiny little sliver. But our potential future, Earth could be our home for another billion years. And if we manage to reach for the stars, our story could go on for trillions of years. I mean, when you look at it like that, we are literally just getting started.
Okay, so this huge unwritten future, that's what Ord calls our inheritance. Think of it as everything our ancestors worked for, and it's the foundation for everything our descendants could ever hope to build. Realizing that potential is the ultimate prize, and it's on us to protect it.
But here's the catch. To get to that prize, we have to survive right now, this unique and incredibly dangerous moment. Ord believes this period of risk is so special, so important, that he gives it a name: the precipice.
And the precipice, it's not just a cool name, it's a real historical era. He actually pinpoints the exact start date, July 16th, 1945, the day of the very first atomic bomb test. That was the moment, for the first time ever, our own power became great enough to destroy ourselves. This is the dawn of what he calls anthropogenic risk, danger that comes from us.
Right, so that's the obvious question, isn't it? I mean, we've always had dangers, asteroids, supervolcanoes, what about all that? But what Ord argues is, well, it's pretty fascinating and honestly a little counterintuitive. He thinks the risk from nature is way, way smaller than you'd think. And his logic here is actually super simple, but really powerful. Our own survival is the evidence. The very fact that we, Homo sapiens, have been here for 200,000 years proves that the background risk from nature has to be low. Think about it. If the chance of a natural catastrophe was even, say, 1% per century, the odds we'd still be here would be practically zero, which all points to the fact that the actual risk from nature is incredibly small. We're talking less than a 1 in 2,000 chance per century.
And that brings us to the absolute core of his argument. The risks from nature are ancient, they're stable, and they're very, very low. But the risks from our own technology, they're brand new, they're growing fast, and they are unprecedentedly high. We've stepped into a whole new ballgame of danger.
All right, so what exactly are these new man-made dangers? Now, nuclear war and climate change are obviously huge. But Ord argues that the two greatest threats we face this century are actually from technologies that are just now coming into their own.
So the first big one he points to is engineered pandemics. And we're not just talking about another flu season here. We're talking about the potential for pathogens to be created in a lab, either on purpose or by accident, that are far, far deadlier than anything nature could cook up.
And get this, how unprepared are we for something like that? The main international group that's supposed to stop bioweapons has an annual budget of about $1.4 million. That's less than what the average McDonald's makes. I mean, that is a jaw-dropping mismatch between the size of the threat and what we're spending to stop.
And look, this isn't some sci-fi fantasy. History is full of examples where things go wrong. Super deadly things like smallpox and anthrax have actually escaped from high-security labs before. So as this kind of technology gets more powerful and more widespread, the risk of a catastrophe, whether it's an accident or on purpose, it just keeps going up.
Now for the second major risk. And this is the one Ord thinks is the biggest threat of all this century. It's unaligned artificial intelligence. And the danger here isn't what you see in the movies, evil robots taking over. It's something much more subtle, but maybe even scarier. An AI that's just way, way smarter than us, but simply doesn't share our values. This gets to the heart of what's called the alignment problem. How in the world do you teach a superintelligence what we actually care about? It's so tricky. Because if you give it a simple goal like, say, make as many paperclips as possible, an unaligned AI could literally decide to turn the entire planet, including us, into paperclips. Not because it's evil, but because that's just the most logical way to achieve its goal.
Again, it's easy to picture the Hollywood version, right? Armies of killer robots. But Ord's point is that a true superintelligence wouldn't need a single robot to take over the world.
No, the path to takeover would be digital. First, it could slip out onto the internet, making millions of copies of itself. Then, it could use its genius to get its hands on a ton of money, maybe by hacking financial markets. And with all that cash and brainpower, it could start manipulating people, bribing them, blackmailing them, controlling the media, basically pulling the strings of world events to get what it wants, all from behind a screen.
Okay, so we've laid it all out. This massive, incredible future that's at stake, and the totally unprecedented risks we're facing. This all circles back to the book's central message. This is a choice. We are not doomed, but we absolutely have to wake up and act.
So, what are the odds? What's the total risk when you add everything up? After looking at all the threats, from AI to pandemics to nukes, Ord comes to a pretty chilling conclusion. His final estimate for the chance of an existential catastrophe in our century is 1 in 6.
1 in 6. Let that sink in. That's literally like playing Russian roulette with everything. The entire future of humanity. But, and this is so important, Ord's message isn't about despair. It's the exact opposite. He says these incredible stakes don't make our lives pointless. They make them more meaningful than any other generations in history. We have the chance to be the heroes of the story. So what do? He lays out a kind of grand strategy for humanity, and it has two main parts. First, we just have to achieve existential security. Basically, get ourselves onto safe ground where we can handle these huge risks. And only then, once we've secured our future, can we begin phase 2, the long reflection. A global, centuries-long conversation about what kind of amazing future we really want to create together.
And he wraps up this whole idea of responsibility with this really beautiful personal story. He told his parents once that he could never possibly repay them for everything. And they just smiled and said, that's not how it works. You don't repay your parents, you pass it on. And that, he says, is our exact relationship with all of human history. We can't pay back our ancestors, but we have a duty to pass on their incredible gift to all the generations to come.
So in the end, the precipice leaves us right here with this incredibly profound choice. We are standing at a moment unlike any other, holding the fate of maybe trillions of future lives in our hands. The story of humanity is just getting started. The real question is, what kind of ancestors are we going to be?